Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to Outdoor and Door Texan. Today we're going to be making a hot and spicy homemade chili pepper seasoning. This is a great standalone seasoning that can add a kick of heat to anything you're cooking. Also, it's an excellent additive to existing blends and barbecue rubs if you want to make things just a bit hotter. Now there are multiple ways of going about making this type of seasoning, but today I'm going to focus on the two methods I most commonly use. One starts with the leftover waste from making your own homemade hot sauce. And the second method is starting simply with any type of hot peppers. Make sure to read the ingredients and supplies list in the description below, grab what you need, and let's get to cooking. Let's start with the hot sauce leftovers. This leftover mash comes from the filtering step in a homemade hot sauce recipe, where you pour your blended sauce through a fine metal sieve to smoothen out the finished hot sauce. What you're left with is a mix of pepper and other salt ingredients that didn't quite break down during the blending. Now, instead of tossing it, we can essentially dehydrate it to make a hot sauce flavored seasoning. First step in prep is to grab a sheet of parchment paper and a spoon. Then simply tear out small squares of parchment paper that'll fit in your dehydrator trays. If you don't have a dehydrator, don't freak out. You can just as easily use your oven, which I'm going to cover here in a minute. Once your parchment pieces are ready, simply spoon the mash onto the pieces of paper, making sure to smear them evenly and thinly. For those using an oven, then transfer everything onto a baking sheet, preferably on top of a wire rack so that there's plenty of airflow. You'll then set your oven to the lowest temp possible and bake until completely dried through. If your lowest temp setting is 170 degrees, like many, it should take 3 to 5 hours, but make sure to keep a close eye on it, checking every hour or so just in case something gets too hot. Now for dehydrator users, toss the parchment onto a tray and set it to the 135 to 145 degree setting for roughly 5 hours. Make sure and check on it every hour or so just to be safe as well. For those who don't have leftover homemade hot sauce mash, let's move to the peppers method. Today, I'm working with a strain of super hot chili peppers known as ghost peppers. These peppers and other similarly super hot strains make for excellent seasoning because even the smallest portion of these sprinkled over a dish will absolutely light it on fire. You can work with lower heat peppers to make your seasoning, but just make sure to match the pepper with the spicy level you're hoping to attain with the finished product. We're going to be aiming to dehydrate these peppers, same as you would with the mash, so your first step in prep is to slice your peppers into coins so there's plenty of surface area to dry out. You'll notice I'm not touching these peppers with my hands, especially once they're getting cut. Use extreme caution when handling super hot chili peppers because they really can ruin your day if the oil gets on your skin. Like the mash before, if you're using an oven, place the peppercorns on a baking sheet at your lowest temperature setting and bake them until bone dry. If you're using a dehydrator, set them to the 135 to 145 degree range and run it until they are dehydrated, which is usually 5 to 8 hours. Another quick warning about working with peppers and hot sauce mash is that you may experience some really spicy fumes coming from your oven and dehydrator as they cook. If you or other people in your household are sensitive to spicy foods, try and be cautious around exposure to these fumes. I typically move my dehydrator to the garage for this recipe so that my wife doesn't kill me. If you're using your oven, it may be a good idea to send other housemates on a spa day or some other type of fun errand. Okay, it's been about 8 hours and both my peppers and mash are fully dehydrated. I found that the mash finished around 5 hours, but the peppers were more stubborn and took the full 8. You'll know it's done when everything is extremely, dry, but also brittle to the touch. If there's anything that is still gummy, just hang back with that piece and let it run for maybe another hour before checking on it. You can see that both the mash and peppers break apart easily to the touch, which makes our next step a whole lot easier. For this step, you can use gloved hands, a spoon, a spice mixer, coffee grinder, or even a food processor, depending on what's lying around your kitchen and how big of a batch you're working with. Today, to keep things super simple, I'm just going to use my hands and a spoon to show you the most basic method. That method being, crush your mash and peppers to the best of your abilities with what you've got lying around. And yet another quick warning, as you crush your mash and or peppers into a fine powder, be really careful not to inhale that. If you're running everything through a mechanized grinder of some sort, wait a good minute after turning it off before opening the lid. If you thought getting ghost pepper oil on your skin was bad, you're gonna hate having it in your lungs. I know I'm getting pretty serious with all the warnings, but I of course want to make sure anyone working on these recipes has a respect for the dangers in these ingredients. That being said, if you just make sure to be aware of the dangers and careful while working with peppers, you'll more than likely be fine. Once you've ground the mash and or peppers into a fine powder of your liking, you're pretty much done. From here, you can use it as a standalone heat additive in recipes or add it to a favorite seasoning or rub for a welcome kick of heat. Beyond that, you can also start adding herbs and spices to your taste and create your own standalone signature seasoning. The options really are limitless, and it's a whole lot of fun to play with. That'll do it for this recipe, and thank y'all so much for watching. This particular video came together after getting multiple viewer requests to share my recipes on the seasoning. I'm always open to requests, so let me know in the comments below on what you'd like to see in future videos. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe for more great content to come. Alright y'all, take care.